The forest was alive, but not in the way one might expect. It wasn't the rustling of leaves or the distant hoot of an owl that filled the air. Not with the usual sounds of nocturnal animals, the chirping of crickets or the rustle of small creatures moving through the underbrush. Instead, there was a silence so profound it felt heavy, oppressive, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The air was thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth, a rich, loamy aroma that seemed to ground me to the very essence of the forest. Above, a million stars twinkled, their light barely penetrating the dense canopy of leaves. The stars seemed to whisper secrets of the universe, their distant glow a reminder of the vastness beyond this secluded world. I walked deeper into the forest, each step crunching on fallen branches, the sound amplified in the stillness. The path was familiar, yet every visit felt like a new adventure, a new discovery waiting to be made. This was my sanctuary, a place to escape the noise and chaos of everyday life. Here, under the blanket of stars, I found peace and clarity that eluded me in the bustling world outside. I had been coming here for years, drawn to its solitude and tranquility. The forest had become a part of me, a silent companion that understood my need for quiet reflection. But tonight something felt different. The usual comfort of the forest was tinged with an unfamiliar tension, a sense that I was not alone. The air was charged with an unseen energy, a prickling sensation on the back of my neck that made me pause and look around, half expecting to see a pair of eyes staring back at me from the shadows. I pushed the feeling aside, attributing it to my imagination. After all, the forest had always been a place of solace, not fear. Yet the sensation lingered, a whisper at the edge of my consciousness. I was alone, or so I thought. The forest, with its ancient trees and hidden secrets, seemed to be watching, waiting, and in that moment I realized that perhaps I was not as alone as I had always believed. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves, creating a symphony of nature's whispers. Each leaf seemed to have a story to tell, a secret to share with the night. The moonlight cast eerie shadows, making the forest come alive in a dance of light and dark. The chill in the air was palpable, and it sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just the cold, it was something more, something that seemed to reach into my very soul and stir a deep-seated fear. The wind carried with it a faint sound, like whispers on the edge of hearing. It was as if the forest itself was trying to communicate, to convey a message that was just beyond my grasp. The rustling leaves seemed to form words, phrases that I couldn't quite make out. I stopped in my tracks, straining to identify the source of the whispers. My heart pounded in my chest as I listened intently, trying to discern whether it was just the wind or something more sinister. The forest was alive with sounds, each one adding to the growing sense of unease. Was it just the wind playing tricks on me? The shadows moved in the moonlight, creating shapes that seemed to dance and shift with every gust. My mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. Or was it something else, something lurking in the darkness, hidden just out of sight? The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. The air was thick with anticipation, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The hair on my arms stood on end, a primal reaction to the unknown. Goosebumps covered my skin as I tried to convince myself that it was nothing, just my imagination running wild. But deep down, I knew that there was more to it. I told myself it was nothing, just the natural sounds of the forest at night. The chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl. These were all familiar sounds, yet tonight they seemed different, more menacing, but deep down a primal fear began to stir. It was an instinctual response, a warning from some ancient part of my brain that sensed danger. My eyes darted around, searching the shadows for any sign of movement. The silence returned, heavier than before. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The stillness was oppressive, pressing down on me like a weight. I continued walking, my senses on high alert, every nerve in my body tingling with anticipation. Each step seemed to echo in the silence, the sound amplified by the stillness of the night. I moved cautiously, trying to make as little noise as possible. Every shadow seemed to move, shifting and changing shape as I passed. My mind played tricks on me, turning ordinary objects into sinister figures. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, that something was lurking just out of sight. Every creak and groan of the trees sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. The forest was alive with sounds, each one adding to the growing sense of unease. I couldn't tell if it was just the wind or something more, something that was watching and waiting. Then I saw it. A flicker of movement in the distance, barely perceptible, but enough to catch my attention, a fleeting shadow against the darkness, like a whisper of something unknown. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees becoming silent sentinels. Was it an animal, a deer perhaps, or a fox? My mind raced through the possibilities, each one more implausible than the last, but the shape was all wrong, too tall, too slender. It didn't fit the profile of any creature I knew. It moved again, gliding silently between the trees, almost as if it were floating. The way it moved was unnerving, defying the natural order, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared, leaving me in a state of bewilderment. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what I had seen. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one more confusing than the last. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. Could it have been a trick of the light? Or perhaps my imagination running wild? Logic told me it was just my imagination playing tricks on me in the darkness, but the feeling in my gut was undeniable. But my gut told me otherwise. There was something out there, something beyond my understanding, lurking in the shadows. I took a cautious step forward, my senses on high alert. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent shivers down my spine. My eyes scanned the darkness, searching for any sign of movement. The forest was alive with sounds, but none that could explain what I had seen. Determined to uncover the truth, I pressed on, deeper into the forest. Whatever it was, I had to know. I continued my walk, my pace quicker now, my senses on high alert. The feeling of being watched intensified. Every time I turned around, I expected to see something standing behind me, its eyes glowing in the darkness. But there was nothing. The whispers returned, closer this time, circling me. I couldn't make out any words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a warning. I picked up my pace, breaking into a jog. The forest floor seemed to stretch out before me, the trees closing in, their branches reaching out like grasping claws. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped me. I ran, my lungs burning, my legs screaming for me to stop, but I couldn't. Something was hunting me. I could feel it. The whispers followed, urging me on, taunting me. I didn't dare look back. I could hear it behind me, moving swiftly and silently, its breath hot on my neck. The trees whipped past in a blur. I burst out of the tree line and into the open field, the moon illuminating the path ahead. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, its metallic gleam a beacon of safety in the darkness. Section 6. Flight into the unknown. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking uncontrollably. The engine roared to life, and I sped away, not daring to look back. The forest seemed to watch me go, its dark silhouette a menacing presence against the horizon. I drove for what felt like hours, my mind replaying the events of the night over and over again. Had I imagined it all? Was it just a case of nerves and an overactive imagination, or was there something truly sinister lurking in the shadows of the forest? Section 7. Searching for answers. The next day I returned to the forest, armed with a camera and a determination to find a rational explanation for what I had experienced. I searched for footprints, for broken branches, for any sign of another presence, but there was nothing. I spoke to park rangers, to local hikers, to anyone who might have information about strange occurrences in the area. Some dismissed my story as a hallucination. Others shared tales of similar encounters, their voices hushed, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and awe. Section 8. The Enigma Remains. Years have passed since that night. The memory of it remains vivid, etched into my mind like a scar. I have never returned to the forest after dark. The peace and tranquility I once found there has been replaced by a lingering sense of unease. The experience has left me with more questions than answers. What did I see that night? Was it a figment of my imagination or something more tangible, something that defies explanation? The truth, like the forest itself, remains shrouded in mystery. Section 9. A lingering unease. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that I am being watched, that something is out there, lurking just beyond the veil of reality, and sometimes when the wind whispers through the trees, I imagine I can still hear it calling my name. The enigma of the night remains unsolved, a chilling reminder that there are some things in this world that we may never fully understand.